your insights on those diplomatic topics. We will, of course, have all eyes on that meeting between Trump and Putin that takes place tomorrow in Alaska. But let's move on to a related development on the battlefield. And Russia's defense ministry says its forces have captured Iskra and Scherbynivka in a Ukrainian region called Donetsk. The operation, led by the Center Group of Forces, also targeted Suvorovo and Nikhorovka villages. Moscow claims its air, missile and artillery strikes hit 136 Ukrainian positions, including sites used by foreign mercenaries. Russia says its air defences shot down 4 HIMARS rockets, 9 guided bombs and 240 drones over the past day. Well, joining us to discuss these developments, Martin Saar-Arayas, a foreign affairs expert, joining us live from Germany. Martin, of course, Russian reports of further gains on the battlefield within Ukraine. These are only coming from Russia, but of course this is something that we hear quite regularly. How do these further gains impact that talk between Trump and Putin?
I think this shows that Russia wants to show the world, or wants to try to show the world that they are not losing the war against Ukraine after Ukraine has fired a lot of drones into Russian territory and successfully done a lot of damage to their infrastructure. However, Russia right now is trying to implement influence in the Donetsk region by surrounding these 2 important cities in this region and to show military superiority. This shows that the conflict is far away from ending. It shows that Russia wants to give a symbolic move in order to show that they are moving forward towards winning the war. But in this case, both countries are absolutely strong in their capacities. Ukraine is absolutely strong with their implementation of attacks with drones, and Russia is actually doing pretty well in their field movement. So I think this is pretty interesting, and this is gonna end up giving a long retaliation in this conflict.
Yes, absolutely. And Martin, building off that, of course, President Trump in recent days saying that both Russia and Ukraine may have to cede land, given that most of the land that is in contention, of course, is being controlled by Russia, but is originally Ukrainian land. How do you think these advancements play into that rhetoric from Donald Trump?
I think right now, the new strategy of Donald Trump is not gonna end up in a diplomatic, diplomatic terms, and it's absolutely, this war is absolutely not into a solution using diplomacy, because not Russia and neither Ukraine are willing to give up on their lands. Donald Trump at the beginning was very skeptical within the Ukrainians. But right now he's realizing that his move in neutrality is not being very supported and popular within the Western population, and his further strategy has been seen as being an ally of Russia, something that is absolutely negative for his campaign. So right now he's trying to shift this view. He's trying to be more pro-Ukrainian and trying to push Russia into a ceasefire, but I don't think none of these parties involved is gonna try to give up on their lands. And I think the war is not close to be done.
Yes, Martin, if you could stay with us as we continue to look at developments from military action within the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Ukrainian drones have struck 2 Russian cities, injuring at least 16 people just a day before the US-Russia summit on the war in Ukraine. In Rostov-on-Don, a drone hit an apartment building, wounding 13 people, according to local reports. In Belgorod, 3 people were injured after a drone struck a car in the city centre. And in Volgograd, falling drone debris sparked a fire at an oil refinery. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump and Russian President Putin, of course, are set to meet in Alaska, this hoping to seek an end to the 3.5-year war. Well, Martin, thank you once again for staying with us. Attacks from Ukraine seemingly attacks being reported by Russia on apartment buildings. Of course, the rhetoric coming out of Kyiv has been that only military facilities have been struck by Ukraine. Could this be, if Russia are to be believed, could this be a potential shift from Ukraine ahead of those peace talks? Something that we often see in battle before a ceasefire is agreed, strikes tend to intensify.
Of course, I think that that Ukraine is also failing to try to achieve peace. Obviously, Russia has been the principal aggressor in this conflict, but also this is the second time that Ukraine is attacking before dealing with Donald Trump. So it shows that actually Zelensky is also not interested in putting an end to this war. Obviously, Putin is not also willing to give up on his interests, but because of Donald Trump pushing him into an end, it shows a light in order to end this war. But again, this attack from Ukraine is gonna only damage the possibility of ending the war. With a ceasefire and knowing the Russian strategy, the Russians are they're very sensitive in their pride. They're not going to accept a ceasefire after this development, and I think they're going to retaliate. This is unfortunate, and hopefully Donald Trump can push both sides to an end of this war. But in the meantime, right now, I don't see an end after these developments, which are going to cause a damage in the dialogue.
Yes, Martin, let's look at Donald Trump's rhetoric. Of course, he has been strong on Vladimir Putin after strikes in recent weeks and months with hundreds and hundreds of drones targeting Kyiv, targeting the east of Ukraine, but also some strikes targeting the west. Do you think this will irk Donald Trump and potentially be a negative for Ukraine in talks that they're not present at?
Of course. I mean, Donald Trump is, from the beginning, his strategy has been trying to be more neutral and not following everything that Ukraine's ask. Obviously, Ukraine has been attacked, and obviously, the biggest aggressor in this war has been Russia has been the biggest aggressor on this conflict, and that's absolutely clear for everyone. But also, we need to analyze that the Ukrainian president is also failing in achieving or in following the path that Donald Trump is asking for. In order to achieve peace, both sides need to lose something. This war is not going to end if one party wants to keep all of their interests and all of the territory that they are asking for. Both parties need to give up on something. And this is something that Zelensky is not willing to do. So he's failing to do so. And unfortunately, this just deteriorates the situation.
Yes, and finally, Martin, there are reports from the Russian Defense Ministry that they've struck missile facilities of Ukraine. Do you think that these strikes from either side are just showing that the diplomatic efforts that are going on the surface really aren't having an impact on the war? And how do you think this rhetoric from Western leaders, from Russia, from the US, and also from Zelensky could impact fighting on the ground?
Well, I think right now the influence from leaders from the West is not really impacting the war. I mean, if the biggest leader of the world, of the most powerful country of the world, the US, is asking Ukraine and Russia for giving up on a lot of things and they're not willing to cooperate, I don't know what is going to help for that. I mean, I think Zelensky and Putin really need to figure out what are they going to lose in this war, because if they're not willing to sacrifice something, this is not going to end well. So I think right now diplomacy is failing. It's not going to be a huge, it's not going to put a lot of impact in the decisions, but it can lead to a new analysis of their strategy from each leader. So I do think that it has a small impact, but not as big as we are thinking of.
Yes, absolutely. Martin, thank you ever so much for joining us and providing such great insights on the military aspects of the Russia-Ukraine conflict.